Yes, this is a video that I promised you to do. My personal story with my ex-wife. And yes, she cheated. Before we start, I want to ask other channels not to use this story, because it's my personal thing, my family, my daughter, okay? Before we start, please drop a like. Cause it's not easy to share it with big audience. So, those 7 years flew by. My wife and I, we were like any other couple you'd see. I worked in marketing, making decent money, and she was doing her design thing as a freelancer. We had this cute little 5-year-old, our daughter. She's a bundle of joy, always lighting up our day. Working from home. Yeah, it was a choice we made about 3 years ago. Wanted to be around more for our little one. It wasn't always a walk in the park, you know. Some days, it felt like we were juggling a million things at once. But most days, it was pretty cool. We take turns making lunch, have little coffee breaks together, and just be there for our daughter. We had each other's backs, always helping out when the other was swamped with work. It felt good, like we had found our rhythm. So, one day, my wife comes up to me, all excited, saying she's got this new client. And guess what? It's not just any client, it's this big chain of tea shops from our city. I mean, I've been to those shops a couple of times, and their tea, top notch. I was genuinely stoked for her. This was a big deal, and I could see it in her eyes. She started telling me about how they wanted a fresh design for their branding, maybe even redesign their menus and stuff. She was buzzing with ideas, sketching things out on napkins, and talking about color palettes. It was nice seeing her so passionate about a project. The only new thing, she had to attend these face-to-face meetings. Now, remember, we've been working from home for a while, so this was a bit of a change. But I thought it was great. I mean, working online is cool and all, but after a while, you kind of miss the whole face-to-face interaction, you know. Plus, I thought it'd be good for her to get out, meet people, and maybe even network a bit. She'd dress up for these meetings, and I gotta say, she looks stunning every time. I'd often joke, saying, going to woo the clients with your charm, huh? And she'd laugh, give me a peck on the cheek, and head out. Our daughter would wave her off, shouting, "Good luck, mommy." It was a cute routine. The project seemed to be taking a lot of her time, though. She'd often come back and dive straight into her work, sketching, making notes, and sometimes even working late into the night. I tried to help out more around the house, making sure she had her favorite snacks and tea ready when she was burning the midnight oil. I was proud of her, you know. It felt like this was her big break, and I was all in, supporting her. So, after one of those nights when she went out with her friend and took our little girl along, things started to feel, I don't know, a bit off. It wasn't anything super obvious at first. Just tiny things here and there. Like, she'd be with me, but not really with me, if you catch my drift. I remember this one morning, I made her favorite breakfast, scrambled eggs with a sprinkle of cheese and toast. Usually, she'd dig in, telling me how I make the best eggs. But that day, she just kind of picked at her food, lost in thought. I tried cracking a joke, something about how the eggs were plotting a rebellion because she wasn't eating them. Normally, she'd laugh or play along, but she just gave a small smile and continued staring at her plate. Then there were those moments when we'd be watching our favorite shows in the evening. We had this thing where we'd guess what would happen next, making silly bets. But she seemed distracted, often missing the funniest parts or not reacting to the plot twists. It felt like she was a million miles away. Thinking maybe she was just stressed out with the project, I planned a surprise date night. Got a babysitter for our daughter, made reservations at her favorite Italian place, the one with the amazing garlic bread and pasta. I thought, hey, a night out might be just what we need to reconnect. But even at the restaurant, it was like she was in her own world. I tried bringing up old memories, talking about our first date, the time we got caught in the rain, all our fun stories. But her responses were short, and she kept checking her phone. I won't lie, it got me worried. Was it something I did? Was she unhappy with our life? I even asked her straight up if everything was okay with work, with us, with everything. She just brushed it off, saying she's just tired or that the project was taking a toll on her. I wanted to believe her, but that nagging feeling that something was up just wouldn't go away. So, one evening, I'm sitting with our daughter, helping her with her hair. She's got these lovely locks, and she loves it when I brush them out for her. We usually make it our little bonding time, talking about her day, her friends, and all the kiddo stuff. As I'm brushing, she suddenly goes, "Daddy, Mike says my hair is pretty too." I pause, brush in hand. "Is Mike, sweetie?" She looked up at me with those innocent eyes. He's Mommy's friend. I met him when I went out with Mommy. Now, I know most of her friends, and I couldn't recall any. Mike. Oh, when did you meet him? She started playing with her teddy bear, thinking for a moment. Last week, I think. We went to this place with lots of plants and he was there. I tried to keep my voice casual, not wanting to alarm her. What did you guys do? She giggled. We had ice cream. Mike got me the chocolate one. And he and Mommy talked a lot. They laughed and he showed me some funny pictures on his phone. I felt a knot in my stomach but tried to keep the conversation light. Sounds like a fun day. Did Mike and Mommy seem like good friends? She nodded. Yeah. He gave her a big hug, like how you hug me when I'm scared at night. And oh, he gave her flowers too. That caught my attention. Flowers. She made a face. Yeah, but Mommy didn't like them, I think. She put them in the trash when we got home. She looked sad. I don't know why. Flowers are pretty. I took a deep breath, trying to process everything. Thanks for telling me, sweetie. You always have the best stories. She smiled. I know. Can we play with my dolls now? I nodded, but my mind was racing. Who was this Mike? Why hadn't my wife mentioned him? And why would she throw away flowers? Something wasn't adding up, and I had this sinking feeling that I was about to uncover something I wasn't ready for. That night, after tucking our daughter into bed and reading her favorite bedtime story, I found myself pacing in the living room. The whole Mike thing was eating at me. I mean, it's not like my wife can't have male friends, but why hadn't she mentioned him? And the flowers in the trash. That was just weird. I heard the shower running, signaling that my wife was in for her usual long, relaxing bath. I glanced at her MacBook on the table. I know, it's not cool to snoop, but man, I was desperate for some answers. And, to be honest, I was the tech guy in the house. I'd set up her passwords, helped with her software updates, the whole shebang. Taking a deep breath, I opened her laptop. I told myself I'd just take a quick peek, maybe see if there were any recent messages or emails from this Mike guy. I clicked on her messaging app and there it was, a chat thread with Mike T's shop. My heart raced as I scrolled through their conversation. There were messages about work, sure, but then there were others. Messages that made my stomach churn. Had a great time with you, can't wait to see you again, and then the photos. Pictures of my wife, ones I'd never seen, some in outfits that were well, meant for my eyes only. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I took screenshots, thinking I might need them later. I wasn't even sure why I was doing it, but it felt like the right thing to do at the moment. As I was about to close the laptop, I saw a new message pop up from Mike. Miss you. When can we meet again? Before I could even process it, another message from my wife appeared. Soon. I promise. I closed the laptop, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief. I sat on the couch, trying to make sense of everything. The sound of the shower turning off snapped me back to reality. I knew I had to confront her, but how? How do you even start a conversation like that? She emerged from the bathroom, her robe hugging her, hair still dripping a bit. I watched her, trying to reconcile the woman in front of me with the one in those messages. She caught my gaze, a hint of confusion in her eyes. Everything okay? I took a deep breath, steadying myself. We need to talk. She raised an eyebrow. About Mike, I said, my voice flat. Her face lost color, and she hesitated before sitting down, keeping a distance. What about him? I pulled out my phone, displaying the screenshots. This isn't just work, is it? She looked at the messages, then back at me, searching for words. I didn't think you'd find out. The pain hit me first, sharp and deep. But then, something shifted. The cold detachment settled in. Did you think about us? Our family? She bit her lip, tears forming. I did. Every day. But it was complicated. I leaned back, my voice icy. You should have thought about the complications before diving in. She wiped away a tear. I know. I messed up. I looked at her, feeling a strange mix of pain and indifference. Why the flowers? Why toss them? She hesitated. They made it too real. I realized the gravity of my mistake. I didn't want them. I didn't want any reminders. We sat in silence, the tension palpable. Finally, I spoke. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to figure this out. Not for us, but for our daughter. She deserves better than this. She nodded, her voice barely audible. I know. Well, spoiler alert. We didn't figure it out. I guess life isn't like those rom-coms where everything magically falls into place by the end, huh? We tried, though. For a while, we went to counseling. Sat on a comfy couch in a room that smelled like lavender, talking to a therapist who nodded a lot. She'd ask us about our feelings, our thoughts, our innermost desires. I remember one session where she asked us to describe our relationship using a weather pattern. I said hurricane, and my wife said fog. Go figure. We had some good days, where it felt like maybe, just maybe, we could patch things up. We'd laugh at a joke, share a meal without tension, or even have a family day out with our daughter. But then, there were the bad days. Days filled with silence, resentment, and those painful memories that just wouldn't fade. One evening, we sat down after putting our daughter to bed. The room was dim, the only light coming from a single lamp. She looked at me, her eyes tired. Do you think we can ever move past this? I sighed. I want to say yes. For her. I gestured towards our daughter's room. But every time I look at you, all I see are the lies. She nodded, tears streaming down. I wish I could take it all back. I leaned back, but you can't. And I can't pretend anymore. We both knew where this was heading. The big D divorce. It wasn't a rash decision. It was the result of countless nights of introspection, arguments, and tears. The process was messy. Lawyers, paperwork, and deciding who gets what. But the hardest part, telling our daughter. Sitting her down and explaining that mommy and daddy won't be living together anymore. She asked if it was her fault, and man, that broke me. We reassured her, hugged her, and promised that we'd always be there for her, no matter what. Now, life's different. I've got my own place, a small apartment not too far from the old house. My daughter visits on weekends. We have our little routines, movie nights, and trips to the park. And as for my wife, we're civil, for our daughter's sake. To cope, I started this channel. Sharing my story, connecting with others, and trying to find a silver lining in this whole mess. It's therapeutic, in a way. Also, I'm familiar with content because of my work. That's how this channel was created. It's not perfect, it's small, but it's mine. I asked Proofreader to check my story before publishing it, cause English is my second language. Thanks for your support. Cheers.